Georgia Rep. John Lewis, a leader of the civil rights movement who went on to serve in Congress for 3 decades, died Friday after being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in December. A flood of tributes poured in from politicians, activists, and the public. The Congressional Black Caucus called Lewis a legend, an icon, and one of Atlanta's most fearless leaders. Here's a look back at Lewis's lifelong activism and his work championing equality. May 23, 1961, from front to back. John Lewis, Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Ralph Abernathy, and James Farmer hold a news conference in Montgomery to announce that the Freedom Rides will continue. Lewis, who was beaten, has a bandage on his head. March 19, 1965. Lewis, third left holding a bottle. Martin Luther King Jr. and Ralph Abernathy march from Selma to Montgomery. March 4, 1990. Thousands of demonstrators, led by Lewis, Jesse Jackson, and other civil rights leaders, march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma on the 25th anniversary of the original Selma to Montgomery March. August 22, 2003. Coretta Scott King, right, and Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton, center, console Lewis at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial during the uncovering of a granite landing, commemorating the 40th anniversary of King's I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C. January 10, 2004. John Lewis and his son, John Miles Lewis, left, posed for a portrait at their home in Atlanta. May 2, 2006. Lewis speaks at a press conference with a bipartisan group of lawmakers to announce support for reauthorizing the Voting Rights Act for an additional 25 years. June 6, 2006. Lewis, one of the first members of Congress who spoke out in support of LGBTQ rights, speaks at a press conference ahead of a Senate vote on same-sex marriage. April 27, 2009. Lewis is led away in handcuffs by a Secret Service officer during an act of civil disobedience to protest the Sudanese government's ongoing genocide in Darfur outside the Sudan embassy in Washington, D.C. February 15, 2011. President Obama presents Lewis with the Medal of Freedom, the highest honor awarded to civilians at the White House. October 8, 2013. Lewis is arrested by Capitol Police after blocking a street with fellow supporters of immigration reform in Washington, D.C. June 22, 2016. Lewis, center, leads a sit-in of more than 200 Democrats to demand a vote on gun control measures following a deadly shooting at Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida that killed 49 people. July 7, 2016. Lewis speaks to protesters in Washington, D.C. demonstrating against the killings of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile by police. November 19, 2016. Lewis looks at images and his arrest record from 1963 for leading a nonviolent sit-in at Nashville's segregated lunch counters. March 24, 2018. Lewis leads a March for Our Lives protest against gun violence in Atlanta. December 6, 2019. Lewis speaks at an event before the passage of the Voting Rights Advancement Act. March 1, 2020. Lewis speaks to the crowd at the Edmund Pettus Bridge crossing reenactment, marking 55th anniversary of Bloody Sunday in Selma. June 7, 2020. Lewis looks over a street in Washington, D.C. that's been renamed Black Lives Matter Plaza.